tonight. Tornadoes touch down and cause damage in Saskatchewan. More wildfire evacuees prepare to head home. And a celebration of Indigenous culture throughout the province.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, June 20th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. It has been a wild 24 hours of weather in our province. Tornadoes, hail, and heavy rain have descended on Saskatchewan, and for some, the cleanup is now beginning. Scott Larson has our top story.
This video, captured southeast of Regina, shows one of 8 possible tornadoes Environment Canada is now investigating. The wild weather cut a large swath through Saskatchewan late Thursday afternoon, prompting tornado warnings for more than 24 communities.
We've got one report of a possible tornado just southeast of Saskatoon near Young. And then we're looking at 3 others closer to Regina. So these were in Davin, Odessa, and Hubbard. And then we're looking at 4 others further southeast of that, just kind of east of Estevan in the communities of Frobisher and Hirsch.
The one near Hubbard touched down on Kayla Chamberlain and Sean Hanofsky's farm. That's about 150 kilometers northeast of Regina. The couple saw the tornado out back of their house and raced to the basement.
You look out the windows, you couldn't see really anything because it was like a whiteout. It was white and gray out the windows, and you could hear things being smacked up against the house.
Chamberlain says they have lost some property, but everyone is safe, as is their cattle. Harrison Webster recorded this video east of Regina.
We just got home and we got an emergency alert, so didn't really think much of it. My wife said, "Hey, come and look at the tornado." So we walked out, and sure enough, there was a funnel cloud southeast of us, and took a little video of it. Hopefully it wasn't touching down or doing much damage, but it was kind of neat to watch.
Environment Canada says this number of tornado reports is rare.
We had a pretty sharp trough moving across Saskatchewan yesterday, which is basically just a sudden change in wind direction. And so this appears to have been the catalyst for a lot of these thunderstorms that were triggered.
The same storm packed a mean punch in Saskatoon with intense winds, punishing rain, and hail. It also created a spectacular lightning storm. Luke says they should be able to confirm if all the sightings were tornadoes or just funnel clouds within a couple of days. He encourages anyone with video footage of the storms to contact Environment Canada. Scott Larson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
And meanwhile, one family was nearly struck by lightning during Thursday's storm in Saskatoon. Eric and Leanne Milne were heading out to a movie with their kids, and that's when the storm rolled in over their Montgomery Place home.
All of a sudden, just saw it explode. Like, it looked like an explosion. I thought like a bomb honestly went off. Like there was like a big fireball like this, and just this loud, and I didn't really know what happened.
And it hit that tree there, and I believe it arced over to the truck and our light there, and yeah, the truck so it burnt off that antenna on the truck and popped the tire, and I heard the tire deflating, and I was like, and I knew the truck was on fire, and I'm like, I gotta get up and deal with that, but I was like, I'm not sure if I'm okay. So I laid there for a second. I figured I was okay, and then I went and tried to deal with it, but then like 6 or 8 neighbors were running to help.
Rescue crews in Alberta have resumed their search for survivors in Banff National Park following a deadly rock fall. The incident happened near Bow Glacier Falls Thursday afternoon. So far, the remains of 2 people have been found. 3 others were taken to hospital in stable condition. Parks Canada says response teams remain on scene and are conducting searches for any others caught in the rubble. Bow Lake remains closed to all visitors. Another milestone has been reached in Saskatchewan's wildfire fighting efforts. The communities of Creighton and Denare Beach will welcome people back home on Sunday. It's the end of a long journey for many evacuees, some of whom lost everything. Chris Edwards reports.
My home was obliterated. It looks like, as my husband put it, It looks like the bottom of a fire pit after a good campfire.
This is all that remains of Carrie Lentowitz's home in Denare Beach. Now, like many others from her community, she'll be coming back to plan for what's next. As of 8 a.m. Sunday, residents of Denare Beach whose homes are still standing or have a place to stay will be allowed to return. But they'll have to travel south from Creighton using Highway 167. They'll also need to present photo ID and proof of residence. For those who have lost their homes, the SPSA says it's working closely with community leaders to help rebuild.
I have been personally in contact with the leadership of both Denare and Creighton, and we will, again, do that needs assessment and how quickly to support either in a temporary or more of a permanent fashion while the communities are being rebuilt.
The nearby town of Creighton will also welcome people back Sunday. Residents there will need to come east through Highway 106 with their ID. They'll also need at least a week's worth of essentials.
So as long as the people are prepared, bring some food with them, any medications, because there will be no access into Flin Flon until they lift their evacuation order.
The evacuation order for Flin Flon is expected to remain until at least Wednesday. The SPSA says, excluding Creighton and Denare Beach, only 3 communities remain under an evacuation order in Saskatchewan. Chris Edwards, CBC News, Regina.
The Saskatchewan NDP is calling on the provincial government to launch an investigation into a controversial Moosejaw Health Centre. Last week, CBC News broke the story that the Dr. Goodnow Restorative Health Centre was promising ALS patients it could stop and reverse the symptoms of the disease using supplements. The centre points to examples of patients who testify that they feel better on the supplements, but some clients told CBC they spent tens of thousands of dollars on the program, which did not work as promised. The NDP says the health minister must step in.
This is not a gray area. This is clear. This is a clear and urgent matter of patient safety. We cannot allow unregulated facilities to target vulnerable people with misleading claims without any oversight or accountability. So today we are urging Minister Cockrell to act now.
But the ALS Society of Saskatchewan says the health minister told them there's nothing he can do about the situation. The Ministry of Health told CBC Friday that the minister was not available for an interview. Regina's only supervised consumption site is open again. The Neo-Yotina Friendship Centre was closed for over 2 months after it was damaged by fire. The fire happened in March in a neighboring restaurant. The second floor of the centre, where cultural programming had been run out of, is still closed due to extensive smoke damage. The centre's manager says the safe consumption site's closure had a big impact on the community, especially as Regina faces an increase of toxic drugs. Police responded to over 50 suspected overdoses in a 1-week span earlier this month.
There was a lot of people injecting in the back alleys, but because I go up and talk to them and they said, the safe injection site is not open anymore, so we need to find a place to go. And that's where they were going before, in the bathrooms, in the back alleys, hiding from people. And that's where, like I said, it gets dangerous, because if you overdose when you're trying to hide from the public, nobody's going to find you.
Garapi says people can come in again for free hot meals and testing their drugs. The centre also provides free naloxone training to anyone who wants it. Saturday is National Indigenous Peoples Day, but some events were held across the province a day early on Friday, including one event in Regina's Victoria Park.
Happy National Indigenous Day!
It's really important to the people to know that we are valued within Regina and within Saskatchewan as Indigenous people, and that we are not an invisible minority. It's important to know that we do exist and our culture does continue to thrive.
The day included some traditional jigging and music. Numerous vendors had food on hand, including warm bannock, and there was also a parade honoring First Nations veterans.
My heart feels full. I just, the amount of variety of people that are supporting Rock Your Roots is amazing. There's lots of kids that were buried, lots of people that have died in residential schools, including my grandmother's brother, which I didn't even know about until I actually read the names, and then asking questions. So being able to acknowledge their presence.
And in Saskatoon, a sea of orange swept through the streets. Thousands came out for the Rock Your Roots walk. The day included Indigenous ceremonies, music, and dancing. Arcan says it shows today's generation that they matter and allows them to celebrate their Indigenous identity. Well, a St. Louis woman is being honored by Canada Post on one of its new stamps. This is Sophie McDougall. She translated books and other material into Michif for 20 years. Michif, of course, a traditional language of Métis people. It's also one of Canada's critically endangered languages. The stamp also features photos of the St. Louis Parish and the original St. Louis Railway Bridge. McDougall died in 2023 at the age of 94. Stay with us. We're back after the break. All this week, we've been bringing you inspiring stories leading up to National Indigenous Peoples Day. In our next story, we meet a chef from Sturgeon Lake First Nation who's on a mission to inspire others to cook healthier meals. Anime Zeviar has more.
More than 20 years ago, Chef Kirk Ermine was in a coma from high blood sugar. It took 3 trips to the hospital before he was finally diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Now, he's using his health crisis to inspire others.
Makes me feel really good inside, knowing that through my illness, my disease, that I can create a positive change in the world. Taking a negative and creating a positive out of it.
Part of that positive change was becoming a chef and using traditional Indigenous ingredients. Since then, Ermine has worked for organizations like Prairieland Park and First Nations University of Canada. These days, he runs his own catering and consulting businesses. He goes to culture camps, schools, and First Nations to teach people how they can cook healthier.
And some of the recipes that we were doing, I was surprised to see how many kids never tried certain vegetables. But once they tried it in different cooking techniques and different flavor profiles, that they actually enjoyed vegetables.
Diabetes Canada says about 17% of First Nations people living on reserve and nearly 13% of those living off reserve have either type 1 or type 2 diabetes. Nearly 10% of Métis people are also diabetic, compared to about 5% of the overall population.
This is a mix of chanterelles, morels, and oyster mushrooms.
Ermine wants people to understand that food can either harm or heal our bodies.
When we're harming ourselves, we tend to go for the fast foods, the comfort foods, something that's gonna get into us quickly. But we don't realize the high cholesterol, the high salt, the high sugars that we're putting in our bodies. And that's like sugar bombing our pancreas.
One staple ingredient Ermine loves to use is sweet potato because it's high in fiber. He wanted to show us how to make a healthy meal using traditional ingredients. And in about 20 minutes, he whipped up some ground bison with sweet potatoes and wild mushrooms over a bed of basmati and wild rice. Ermine says traditional pemmican, made from dried meats, berries, and animal fat, is also a great way to fuel the body. He says you can add different berries or nuts to give it more flavor or nutritional value. Ermine hopes to continue spreading his message through cooking. He's thinking of authoring a cookbook or posting recipe videos on social media with his kids. Anime Zeviar, CBC News, Saskatoon.
And if your mouth isn't already watering from all that great food, how about some Banic? We sent Darla Panes out to taste Banic of all kinds at a local contest.
I'm Darla Panes, and we're at the Regina Urban Treaty Days, where cookums, mushums, aunties, and uncles will be competing for the title of the best Banic making champion.
Looks like the sun is out, which is nice to see here.
What is your secret to making good Banic?
Lots of love in the Banic. I watched my cookum and my mom making Banic when I was a young girl, and then I took on a job at All Nations Hope, and I am now the traditional cook there, and I've been making Banic there for the past 2.5 years.
What are you looking for when it comes to judging Banic?
Texture, dryness, moist.
What makes a good Banic?
For me, it's just baking powder and flour. That's it.
What are you looking for in regards to judging today?
Okay,
the texture, and I guess, just the taste of it. I like a good bannock. Actually, I don't make a good bannock myself, so I should.
What is your secret to making good bannock?
No measuring. You just put your heart into it and enjoy what you're doing. And I love making bannock. Tastes good. Everybody loves it.
And how does it feel to win today?
I was not expecting it. But it feels good. It's good that people actually enjoy the taste of my bannock.
You don't want that bannock absorbing on, eh? So I think it's
blueberry bannock with lemon glaze.
Oh my God.
Nice to see everybody out here so far.
Did you try this one already?
I haven't.
It's delicious. Oh, I love this bannock. Thank you.
Your turn. Camera guys.
Yeah, lots of stomachs rumbling, I think, after that one. Lots of thunder rumbling across the province as well in the last 24 hours. Weather specialist Riley Laychuk brings us up to speed on all the severe weather. Hi, Riley.
Well, thanks, Ethan. Summer officially getting off to maybe a bit of a wet start, a very wet start for some across the province as we head into the weekend. Wanted to quickly flip back to the tornadoes that we saw across the province on Thursday, centered really on the eastern side of the province and over a pretty wide area, you know, anywhere from southeast of Saskatoon, over closer to the Parkland, near Regina, one apiece here, but I want you to pay attention to this one near Frobisher here, 3 tornadoes. Environment Canada looking at the likelihood, they haven't confirmed all of these, but they say they're looking at the likelihood of all 8 of these having touched down over the course of 4 p.m. to just after 9 p.m. Thursday evening. So that just gives you a sense of how widespread this was as we got through the province through the evening hours on Thursday. Flipping ahead to the weekend, we do have a rainfall warning in effect. Kindersley, Leader, Macklin, Rosetown, into the western side of the province here. The potential in some cases locally, you could see up to 80 millimeters of rain this weekend. So a very wet weekend ahead for some. You can start to see the beginning of that starting to move into the province as we get through the afternoon hours. You can see this cloud cover really breaking into south and central parts of the province and this rain to the south. This is all headed up into southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan as we head into the weekend, and that is going to fuel some of those enhanced rainfall amounts as we get into the weekend. This is all courtesy of an area of low pressure moving up from the States, very moisture rich, very moisture laden from the Pacific, so it's carrying a lot of rain with it. The bulk of that starting as we get into the morning hours on Saturday. Saskatoon getting into some rain. Regina through Saturday, this is more like periods of rain, but more will come as we get through the weekend here. As we get through Saturday, we get a bit of a break overnight into Sunday morning, and then it's the eastern side of the province's turn as we see more of this wrapping up across the province as we get Sunday, some of it even dragging into Monday. So we're looking at a multi-day rain event here. The numbers that I'm showing you, all not that unlikely at this point. I think close to 60 millimeters in Kindersley, the potential for up to 35 millimeters in Saskatoon. I think that's pretty reasonable. In Regina, looking at the potential even for 15 to 30 millimeters of rain, I'm thinking. So we're looking at a very wet and a very fast-moving system here that will run its course through the weekend here. Along with this, as we get into the day on Saturday, we do have the potential for some thunderstorms once again, this bringing with it the potential for some downpours and some strong wind gusts with it. Quick look at your temperatures as we head into the afternoon on Saturday. Below seasonal for this time of the year. Along with the system, a cold front will sweep through and really drag temperatures down. North Battleford, 12 degrees, looking at 12 degrees in Saskatoon by the afternoon, 16 in Regina. We'll have a look at your 7-day forecast, Ethan, when I come back in just a bit.
All right. Thanks so much, Riley. Well, as you just saw, the weather may not be the best on Sunday in Regina, but if you are brave enough to face all the rain, you can check out Bazaart outside the TC Douglas building. It features over 100 artists from across the province selling their wares, and tickets sold support the Mackenzie Art Gallery's exhibitions and public programs. Stay with us. We have more news for you after the break. Welcome back. A basketball-focused Regina nonprofit is transforming another neighborhood park. This weekend, Buckets and Borders will hold a grand opening for its Core Park court, and we stopped by to see how it's all coming along.
This particular court at Core Park is something that we've always wanted to do. We've always had a lot of love for this neighborhood, and these courts right here used to be really small and beat up, and so it's the perfect kind of opportunity for restoration. But what we've started to think about is not if we can't fit a full court in neighborhoods and in communities, it's a great opportunity to add a 3-on-3 court. 3x3 is growing like crazy across the globe from an Olympic level to a grassroots level. So we thought that this would be a perfect installation for a FIBA 3x3 size court, as well with some smaller hoops for the kids to play on. This particular design was designed in participation with the youth and students from Thompson School, which is just a few blocks away. Working in the core downtown community is really important to us, as it's a very vibrant community with a lot of love for basketball. But I think for the larger scope, we'd love to see a court in every neighborhood in Regina one day.
All right, looking at the next week ahead here, and as I mentioned earlier, the weekend featuring rain and some wet weather across the province. Rain, not all that a bad thing this time of the year particularly, but maybe not in the amounts that we're seeing all at once here. So for Regina, looking at 17 degrees by the afternoon, cool conditions persisting as we get into the week. That rain does start to taper off as we get through Monday. Then we start to see regularly scheduled summer returning once again. 26 by Wednesday in Regina. Slight chance of some showers, maybe a thunderstorm into Thursday at 27 degrees. Much the same in Saskatoon. We're looking at temperatures remaining cool as we get through the weekend, 13s and 14s. You'll notice some of these enhanced totals here. The potential even for even more rain locally falling in parts of the province as we get through the weekend. Showers ending as we get through Monday, 16 degrees, and then we return to a little bit of a more dry pattern as we head toward the end of the week. 26 for Wednesday, 27 for Thursday, and Ethan, a chance of showers, maybe some thunderstorms into Friday.
Yeah, definitely a mixed bag there. Thanks so much, Riley. And that is it for us this week. For more news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. And of course, you can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Stay dry this weekend.